So, firstly, Gail, thank you so much for joining me as part of our 2020 Homegrown series to champion change and inspire women to go out there and chase their dreams, regardless of whether that be in business or in life. I'm so incredibly grateful for you joining me. And for all of those that are joining us to watch this or listen to this amazing interview, this is the wonderful Gail Matthew, who is an amazing woman. She's a mum of two. She's based in New Zealand and, of course, is the visionary and owner of Kombucha City, which we'll talk more about soon. Now, I have to pre-frame that I never know how to say kombucha properly, so Gail, you'll have to probably correct me 100 times. But I am really excited to hear your story and your journey about this business, because I love kombucha myself and I am an avid fan. I can't wait to order mine and get on board. And I'm even more excited, I guess, to be able to share this journey with everyone else. Obviously I am a woman in business, and I'm also a woman of a very normal day-to-day life, and I'm just really wanting to be able to basically be able to showcase to other women out there who are either starting a business or wanting to grow a business but unsure if it's for them. They can do it. We are normal, just like everyone else. We face life challenges and business challenges, and to really just showcase the real side of life and business and everything in between. Anyway, enough about me. So, Gail, I would love to get started, and I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are, and of course, your background, and of course, why you decided to start your own business.
So, a little bit of background to start with. So, for 25 years, I worked in hospitality, in bars and nightclubs predominantly, New Zealand and overseas. And at the end of my hospitality career, I owned a cafe. My parents had also been in hospitality growing up, so it was kind of like a thing about my life, I guess, really. And then I got married and had my kids and really didn't want to be working those sort of hours anymore. So I retrained and became a naturopath and medical herbalist. I did a lot of that training when I was pregnant with the kids and sat my final exam just after my son was born. Then I started a naturopathic practice at home when the kids were young, which was doing quite well. But there was a combination of things that happened with the global financial crisis in 2008, and my second child, Dan, was quite sick. And so that had me rethink a lot of my priorities, and I decided to close the business really so I could lower my stress levels and concentrate on the kids, because that's really what life's all about, right? Sometimes you just have to prioritise the family. So I closed my business and went back to working for someone else where I could just go to work part-time, shut the door, come home and be with the kids 100% of the time. Then fast forward 8 years and the kids are a bit older and I'm thinking it'd be nice to start a business again. So I started this business journey in October 2016 when I decided, okay, this is what I want to do, and set up my company and started doing all the research and stuff that I needed to do and trying to develop the products. That took longer than I expected, and I didn't launch my first product until January of this year, so 2019. And it's just been kind of go since then, really. So that's kind of how it all came about.
Yeah, cool. And how's it been going for you? Because I guess, I don't have kids myself, but lots of my friends do, and they have their own businesses. And it really is a fun game of juggling and prioritising and being okay with the fact that we're just human and can't do everything. So how do you find it having, two kids and a business which is, I guess in its, I would say, startup phase and getting out there? Like, how do you find juggling it all?
It can be tricky at times, to be fair, but it's much easier this time around with my kids being a lot older. They're a lot more independent now. When they were preschoolers, it was really challenging because you have to be there such a lot of the time. But now they are a lot more independent. My daughter's about to start her final year at school, and my son's in high school as well. They're actually at different schools, which causes a few issues, but my son takes himself to and from school, so I don't have to do any pickups. He rides his bike. My daughter catches the bus, so she's reasonably independent. So it's not as challenging as what it once was. We don't have a lot of after school clubs now, which they used to have when they were younger. Now they're at high school, they sort of have prioritised what they really want to be involved in. So it is a lot easier than it once was. They look after themselves a lot more now, can get themselves lunch and stuff, and come home and be on their own if I'm at a meeting. Sometimes it's a struggle for sure. I guess when you work for yourself, well, especially my sort of business, not every business is the same, of course, but in my sort of business, I work my appointments and everything around the schedule that I want it to be, So it gives you a lot more flexibility than if you were, say, working for someone else.
Yeah, cool. And I know that a lot of women out there either start thinking, or this is probably based on myself and a lot of people who I speak to, they are starting to think about having kids. They're not able to necessarily, they're not able to really see how their full-time kind of maybe corporate job is fitting into that lifestyle. And they start thinking about having a business or starting a business to create more freedom and flexibility. Sometimes there are women out there on mat leave who go, I don't want to go back to that. I'm going to start something of my own. And, of course, that's what they do. And naively, I think we all do these crazy things and then realise the reality. So having a business, I guess, with young kids previously, would you offer any advice to women who are wanting to start a business with a young family, as opposed to maybe waiting? Or would you say wait until the kids are a little bit older? Like, what would be your advice around that?
I guess it depends on the sort of business that you're doing, right? And if it can be part-time, then absolutely start the business, because it takes a few years to grow. So while the kids are little, that's a really good time. While you're on maternity leave, you've got lots of downtime. Well, they say you have lots of downtime. You kind of don't, but, you've got lots of time where you could be breastfeeding and on the phone to doing stuff. I mean, I planned my entire wedding while I was breastfeeding my first child. So, you can do a lot of stuff while you're breastfeeding. I guess my situation with my kids was a little bit different because I had a sick second child. Had he been well, then it would have been much easier, but we had a lot of specialist appointments, hospital appointments, that sort of stuff. Even when we employed a nanny part-time to help look after the kids. I'd pick them up from preschool and bring them home, feed them dinner so I could be seeing clients. But, he would have meltdowns that would wake the dead. There would be a lot of yelling and screaming, and if I was trying to have a naturopathic consultation in another room of the house, people could still hear him, and that was distracting because they'd be oh, is your child okay? Like, do you need to go and attend to your child? People would really understand me, but that was my issue, was trying to have that practice with a sick child. Whereas if you have healthy, normal children, like I could have done it easily had I had two of my daughter, because she was just a perfect child that did everything that she was meant to, So I guess it depends on your kids and it depends on the sort of business, but absolutely give it a go. Why not? Like, I don't ever regret doing what I did with my naturopathic business, trying it out. It didn't work for me because of the situation, but I would still do it again. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So your advice is don't wait, just go for it, and you work it out.
Just go for it. Yeah, just go for it. Yeah. For sure.
Awesome. Thank you. So how did you get into kombucha?
Kombucha.
Thank you.
Kombucha.
So many people try to teach it to me, and I learn it for a split second, and then it goes again.
Yeah. How did I get into it? Well, I guess I've always been on a wellness journey, right? So that's my thing. I was very sick as a teenager, and my mother kind of discovered natural health and got me on a bit of a wellness journey to try to get me well. And Mum and I have always kind of investigated new things and new products, and always searching the internet for stuff, I don't know, just trying to find new and interesting things. And Mum initially got into brewing kombucha at home, and got me drinking it, and it was one of those things where you look at it. Well, I'd seen it growing to start with, which is not great. So, if you just walk into somewhere and order up a drink and it comes in a bottle and you drink it, that's all fine. But I'd seen the SCOBY in the jar and all the goobies and stuff, and I was like, you actually drink that stuff? Like, no way. And so I was a little bit kind of dubious to start with. But yeah, like Mum got me into it, and I was like, wow, this stuff's really good. Like, it tastes great and it's not sweet. And so I started brewing it myself, and then it became, I was sharing it with my friends, and the usual story, really. Your friends kind of say to you, this stuff's really good, it's better than what you can get in the shops, and you should totally do this for a job. So that was kind of where it all started.
Cool. Absolutely. It's really good. So you mentioned that the process or the idea kind of started a couple of years ago, and then you started doing your research, and it wasn't until January of this year where you finally got to launch. So no doubt lots of challenges over the last couple of years for you. And as everyone faces in business, we're no different. We all face lots of different challenges that we have to overcome, and the choice is whether we do or whether we don't. So what would you say has maybe been one of the biggest challenges for you, and how did you go about overcoming that?
There's probably been two quite big challenges. The first one is cash flow, which I think everybody has an issue with cash flow. You never know how much money you're going to need. And so, I've been very fortunate in that my husband has been very supportive, and he works full time, and we've been able to funnel some money from our personal savings into the business to be able to keep it going. So that's probably the first big challenge, is that you don't actually really know how much money you're going to need until you start getting cracking. And the second challenge, and this goes for any business as well, I think, is that you don't know what you don't know. It's not until you get started where you find out that actually you need to know something. Like, I didn't know that I needed to know about brewing. Like, really, it seems ridiculous, but I knew how to homebrew kombucha, but I didn't know how to brew it in a big way, and it wasn't until I started asking questions of other people that someone said, oh, I know a craft brewing person that might be able to help you. And I'm like, but it's not there. And they said, yeah, but it's quite similar. So it wasn't until speaking to people in the brewing industry that I sort of got some insights and went, okay, this could be applied to kombucha, and maybe I should do it that way. And it changed the whole way of how I manufacture the kombucha. So I guess that's a big thing, is that you don't know what you don't know. And for me, my way around that was just keep asking questions, keep telling people what the challenge is, and keep asking people for help, and eventually doors will just open. There'll be a lot of people that are not the right people to ask for help, but you don't know that until you've asked them. But I just kept going to all different avenues, I guess, until I found just one or two or three people that offered a little bit of insight, and suddenly doors were opening and things were happening. So yeah, definitely keep asking questions, as many people that you can.
Yeah, cool. Well, because I know asking questions can sometimes be quite hard for people, myself included. I'm a fiercely strong and independent person, and find it very challenging to succumb to saying, I need help. Can someone help me with this particular problem? And I know I'm definitely not the only one out there. So
Yeah.
where do you think people could start asking for different, for different pieces of advice? Like, did you go to friends and family? Did you look for different support networks? Like, where would you?
Yeah, I googled a lot of stuff, and I actually a friend of a friend said to me, "Oh, you can get grants," and so I went looking for what sort of grants I might be able to get to help with stuff, and I got a grant to, I think it was the Ministry of Business and Innovation that do the grants, and so I applied online and um, went and had a meeting with this lovely lady who then said to me, I just kind of went, "Bleh, these are all my issues." And this lady was like, "Well, actually, do you know what? I think you need a business coach, and she will help you, or they will help you to like do some research into your product and see whether it's a worthwhile market to go down." And that's what I did. And it was she gave me a list of people that I could contact. And so I contacted all these people to ask how they would help me, and went and met with a couple of them, and then chose a person to work with. And basically the grant covered 50% of their cost, and I had to pay the other 50%, which was really worth it. I got an awful lot of help for that. It was sort of, I think it was 6 months of support. And that allowed me to do quite a lot of research into whether the product was viable. She helped me formulate questions of what to ask of people, and then where to go to ask the market, basically, and help me segment the market and position my product, really, which was really awesome at the start.
That's really great advice there too, Gail, is specifically probably product-based businesses or even service-based that is not really in the market at the moment. I was reading a statistic yesterday where about 80% of startups fail because of the lack of need in the market or positioning themselves in the market. So your advice around, taking the time to do your market research, yes, sometimes it can be really a painful experience. We just all want to take action. We don't want to do all of that stuff, but it's definitely worth it when you can, I guess, one, find the right avenue to do or to help with that market research, but do your due diligence to get that part of it right, so that you set yourself up for success, because it will definitely reap the rewards later on.
It definitely cost me time, for sure. A lot of time going into different hospitality venues to ask the questions, and setting up the questionnaire, and going across town to meetings with the business coach, because she was quite a distance from where I live. But it was absolutely gold. The information that I got was gold. I was on the money with what I wanted to do and where I wanted to position my product. But had I not been, I could have moved to a position that, that would have been better, I guess. And so, hence that's what took me, 2 years, essentially, just over 2 years to bring my product to market, because I probably spent a good, probably 4 or 5 months just doing a lot of research on the product before I spent too much money, because it costs a lot of money to get into food manufacturing, and probably lots of businesses cost a lot of money, but there was a lot of equipment that I needed to buy to be able to produce my product. And you don't want to do that and then fall on your face,
Absolutely. And you did mention one of the challenges as well as cash flow when you first get started, which every business is going to experience, whether we think we're going to or not. It's a reality. And so what would be your advice around, managing your expectations around that? Some people start businesses and, pour, savings, loans, every dollar they can to quickly get to market. Would you recommend, I guess, taking that risk, or would you say do it on a balanced space? Take some money and then, but still go at a normal human pace instead of kind of investing everything you've got and hoping that it's going to repay quickly?
I guess we never know what is going to happen, right? No one knows what the future holds for any of us. Even in my naturopathic business, I didn't expect the global financial crisis to happen, and that, affected my business because it was a luxury. So, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But, certainly don't rush to get out there, like I kept thinking for the kombucha that every month that I wasn't in the market, another brand was coming out. That was my thing. Every month was like there were more and more companies hitting the market. When I first started in this journey, you could only buy a kombucha in a health food shop, and at least half the people that you spoke to didn't have a clue what it was. 2.5 years later, you could get it at the supermarket, and almost everyone that you spoke to knew what kombucha was, and I was still about to launch. So, the market changed an awful lot, but I still don't regret taking the time that I took, because I got my product exactly where I wanted it to be. I didn't want to put a product on the market that wasn't what I thought was the perfect product. And I think if you rush things, you're more, especially with products, I think this is more specific with products, but I think you're more likely to put a product out there that is substandard to what you think the product should be, and I think that can be detrimental to your brand. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's different with a service-based industry because it's just you, and you have to try to work through your challenges in a different way. But for a product-based business, I think you're much better to take it slower. It's kinder on your cash flow. You get time to do the research. It's not so stressful for you either, as long as you as long as you still have some income. I worked until April of 2019 was when I gave up work. So I had actually launched my product and was still working part-time, which allowed us to give it the cash flow, and I didn't want to leave work until I knew that I had my product in at least one venue being sold, so that I knew that I was on my way. So that was kind of how I tried to manage things.
Yeah, that's definitely a belief I have as well. My good friend of mine and I are in the stages of launching a product business, and we set the goal, we set the date to launch, and as it has with product, there is a delay. And although we were going to rush to market, we have that same mentality of why launch something substandard, because you're really only going to hurt your brand, as opposed to doing it properly and enjoying the experience, as opposed to releasing something, not wanting to continue because of the pressure that you've put on yourself or whatever it could be, and do it in the time frame that works for you, not what we are maybe led to believe by external avenues, constantly in our faces. So
Yeah.
So I guess you've answered a few of the biggest challenges that you have faced, and I know that they would definitely resonate with startup business owners or growth business owners. So I've just got probably one more specific question to ask, and that would be, the purpose of this series is to be able to champion change. And my question to you would be, what does championing change kind of mean to you?
I think it's first and foremost standing up for something you believe in. And that could be just your product, or it could be a cause or whatever. It's just about standing up for what you believe in, and doing something that's probably against the grain of what the normal realm of thinking is. And that could be just something that's even slightly against the grain, or it could be a massive thing. But for me, it's about challenging the norm, I guess, and my life's been about that a lot because I've been really unwell, and it wasn't something that I could say to people, I have this condition, because it was something that people didn't know very much about or how it affected people. I didn't look unwell, so there would always be a challenge there. The medical fraternity weren't able to help really because they didn't know a lot about what it was that was wrong with me. So I had to take the natural route, which was perceived to be, certainly not normal. All sorts of strange looks and comments from people along the journey. I chose to train as a naturopath, which people either believe in or they don't. So there have been a lot of challenges along the way with trying to do something outside of the normal. But I think it's really important to follow your heart. Do what feels right, and if that's the road that everyone travels on, if that's the normal thing, then just do that. But if it's outside of the norm and you are trying to champion change, then just remember it is all about heart, and it's all about following your dream. I guess what you said at the start, it's about doing what feels right for you. Because if you're doing stuff that doesn't sit well with you, then it doesn't work the same.
Absolutely. Thank you. So my final question would be for anyone who I guess is watching or listening to our time together, and whether your journey resonates with them, maybe they're looking for some advice, or they just like to know more about your business and, maybe even buy, how would people be able to reach you?
First and foremost is the website probably, which is kombuchacity.co.nz. And all my contact details are on there. They can email or phone or text or contact me through Facebook Messenger or Instagram, just whatever suits. But all the links are all on the website, so that's the first place to go.
Perfect. Well, Gail, thank you again for joining me and sharing a little bit about your journey, not only in your most recent business, but your life journey and the previous experience that you've had. You've got a world of knowledge, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm excited to follow more of your journey in Kombucha City. And be able to hopefully share it with other people, because I absolutely love the drink, and I'm definitely, and I love the story behind it, and, your reasons why you're doing it. And, and thank you so much for sharing this with all of us today. And I look forward to seeing and hearing more of the journey.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome.